uphill struggle for the Republican nomination in Ohio for Senate, and he was running against Robert Taft Jr. Governor Rhodes delivered a press conference speech in which he said, "The people at Kent State who are causing problems are, quote, the worst type of people we harbor in America. They're worse than the brown shirts, the night riders, and the vigilantes." And the governor went on and claimed that he was going to, quote, eradicate the problem, not deal with the symptoms. So I guess what I'm getting at, at least from an individual interested in speech and rhetoric and language, I think what we had was a historical, political context in which you had officials using the division, which Governor Scranton had talked about, for their own political advantage. And rather than acting in a conciliatory manner and trying to sit down and listen to various views on the incident or various views with regard to the war, the American lifestyle, and other factors, you had individuals trying to more or less expedite, or I should say exploit it for their own political advantage.
Now, when you were asked to be a consultant for the filming of this 3-hour movie we're going to see tonight, how did you become involved as a consultant, and who actually consulted with you?
Jamie, this actually was somewhat accidental in that we had just finished our 1979 tour of Kent State Requiem, and we were performing our final performance at Occidental College. We had a very, very good audience, and it received very good reviews. Within the audience was one of the producers who came up to me later and indicated that he had read my dissertation here at Illinois, and he had also heard about the play and wanted to know if I would be willing to work with him on a TV movie. I initially told him at that moment no, primarily because I've decided that this performance is the end of my involvement in Kent. I didn't feel that any of the information, which I might add is still in the National Archives, hundreds of pages that still remain classified even with the Freedom of Information Act on Kent State. I told him that I didn't feel that there would be much to be gained, and I was very, very skeptical about TV's ability to present a very, very complex situation with factors not only in Ohio but also in Washington affecting what was occurring. And I was just very reluctant. I said, actually, I'm very afraid of you doing it because I think what you're going to do is perpetuate some of the same myths that have grown up over the past 10 years. He at that time indicated that his primary objective was historical accuracy. And I think that's exemplified by the fact when Kent State refused for the film to be done at Kent State, and I might add for the viewers, it would have been difficult even then to have replicated the 1970 event because, as some of them might have known, of the disturbance which caused a great deal of attention and received headlines throughout the country, a gymnasium was built, constructed on the site where the soldiers were marching that day. So we would have had problems even at Kent. But nonetheless, there was a decision made that they would not allow us to film there. We went through 280 reviews of universities throughout the country and in Canada to try to figure out and try to select a university that was the most similar in terms of topography, buildings, etc., that would allow the viewing audience to get a good idea, the best we could possibly offer, of what occurred that day. When I saw the type of detail that was going in just in selecting the site, I became a little bit more positive and supportive of Max Keller, the producer's hope of doing it. And so what happened then was I worked very closely with Gerald Green, the author of Holocaust, that I'm sure many of the viewers saw, and I worked on pointing out inaccuracies in his script. The movie is, of course, based on the dissertation that I did here, James A. Michener's book on Kent State, and Joseph Kellner, a lawyer's book on cover-up. But initially I found very few problems. The network suggested that there be some dramatic license taken to make sure that the audience remained attentive, which is something I didn't feel that was a problem anyway. But what this resulted in, Jamie, was me actually going down to Gadsden, the site where we did the film, and working closely with the director for the remainder of the shoot, which was 30 days. I originally was going down for 2 days. I ended up going for 30. And I might add to my committee over at Illinois that I thought it was a tedious task doing my dissertation. But one thing that I had to do, which reminded me of the many hours at the Illinois Library, was substantiate every scene in the script. I had to go through 13 different references and try to figure out substantiation so that the producers as well as the network could get their errors and omission policy. I think that's important because all the viewing audience then can be assured that everything they see in terms of what they're going to see later tonight has been verified and substantiated using either my dissertation, the FBI report, the President's Commission, or other credible sources.
What about now, when we saw the opening, the clip that NBC furnished us, you were not too happy with this particular clip because it does not present what you wanted to see.
Well, I think there's a danger, as I indicated and have indicated throughout the entire project, and I go into great detail in terms of the third section of Mayday Kent State, the book. And that is, I think it's very, very important to present the facts as they occur. I would like to keep dramatic license to a minimum. If it's an incident such as the ROTC building, which is portrayed in the clip we just saw, I think we should present the facts. If it's a confusing situation, which it was, 10 years later, the FBI and the President's Commission have never been able, nor has any other authoritative agency or any of the trials, revealed who burned the ROTC building. Initially, the script, to me, left a few doubts that the students were responsible. I very, very vociferously fought that because I thought it was extremely important that we give the facts, and if the facts are confusing, I, for one, believe that the viewing audience doesn't have to have an answer. They can sit back and look at the facts as presented. And what I feel is, in the clip we've just seen, nonetheless, we leave the impression that the students were responsible, and that simply is not consistent with the facts. So historically, I have a problem with the way they edited that.
That particular, all right. What about the events that happened at Kent State? Do they have any bearing on our attitudes today regarding student protests?
I think that's a very, very good question to be asked, because throughout the country when I've been interviewed, and I try to explore this also in the book, Mayday, people will say, why dredge this up? Why do we have to bring this up again? And I think it's important for several reasons. One, we have a situation in the country where many sociologists